Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our third lesson for our subject, the teacher and the community, school culture, and organizational leadership. Now, today's lesson is all about the strengths and weaknesses of the Filipino culture, a socio-cultural issue. In this lesson, we are going to achieve the following intended learning outcomes. Number one, to discuss the strengths and weaknesses of the Filipino character. And number two, to cite ways by which schools can counteract the weaknesses of the Filipino character. So let us start. Last 1988, Senator Leticia Ramos Shahani made a report entitled A Moral Recovery Program Building a People, Building a Nation, which contains reports on the weaknesses and the strengths of the Filipino character. And um, so here are, let us go first to the strengths of the Filipino character. So first is pakikipagkapwa-tao. Filipinos regard others with dignity, and Filipinos have the ability to empathize with others in helpfulness and generosity in times of need, or what we call as pakikiramay. So it is seen and manifested in the way we treat our visitors. Whenever someone goes to our house, whenever a visitor goes to our house, we usually serve them with the best food that we can have, that we can offer them, and the best accommodation. And whenever foreigners come to our country, we often treat them with dignity and with high respect. It is also manifested in our helpfulness and generosity in times of need, such as this picture down, the second picture, wherein the truck driver needs some help because his truck got stuck in the mud. So the Filipinos are very willing to help the truck driver. So that is a very typical Filipino culture. And in times of need, we are willing to help others who are in need. And we are also open to others and feel one with others, especially with our fellow Filipinos. Okay, so we feel that especially when we are coming from the same barangay, or when we are coming from the same town or even province. So when we see each other outside of the country, so we often recognize and feel that sense of belongingness. So we are close to each other. So our neighbors, we know our neighbors very well, and even those who are living from the next barangay. So we basically know each other. So it is also manifested in the basic sense of justice and fairness in the concern for others. So, such as this picture right here, they're having the community pantry. So, this is an example of a modern day bayanihan wherein those people, those Filipino people who have something and who were blessed with a lot of things in their lives, share their blessings through the community pantry, where everyone in the community has the chance to get something to be used in their kitchen and their homes. So, exemplifies our ability to empathize with others in helpfulness and generosity in times of need. So, it is also manifested in the practice of bayanihan or mutual assistance and in the famous Filipino hospitality. So it helps promote unity and sense of social justice. So the next in the list of the strengths of the Filipino culture, we have the family orientation, wherein Filipinos have genuine, deep love for their family. So the concern for family is manifested in the honor and respect given to the parents and elders and in the sacrifices for the welfare of the family. So um, we Filipinos are very close to each other. We are very family oriented, and as a result, uh, is the feeling of belongingness and rootedness in the basic sense of security that no matter what happens, like some people are backing us up, and it will give us more confidence to explore the world. So that's another Filipino strength. So another Filipino strength is fun and humor. So Filipinos have a cheerful and fun-loving approach to life and its ups and downs, and this is what we are known for locally and abroad. Laughing at ourselves and in the mess we are in is an important coping mechanism. So let us take a look at the pictures. Although we are in the midst of a problem, we are in the midst of uh, a typhoon or a flood, we still can laugh and make fun about the situation we are into. So that's what we are as Filipinos. And we joke about our good fortune and also the bad fortune. So we basically laugh, we basically are cheerful people. And it is also manifested in the Filipinos' love for social gatherings and celebrations. No? So over here, picture on the top shows Filipinos living abroad who still come together to celebrate festivities in the Philippines, such as we do have the longest celebration of Christmas, which starts in the month of September, and that is a very happy, festive, and very just wonderful celebration. And this fun and humor of the Filipino character results to the following. So, number one is a certain emotional balance and optimism. So, we do uh, actually have a positive outlook in life because we tend to make fun at everything that we are into, whether good or bad, and a healthy disrespect of power and office. So, as an example, is the picture down. So we make a lot of memes about our politicians. So I think that's a healthy disrespect for power and office. And we do have the capacity to survive because of our optimistic character. Next is flexibility, adaptability, and creativity. Filipinos can adjust and to adapt to circumstances and the surrounding environment, both physical and social. So, unplanned and unanticipated events are never overly disturbing to us or disorienting as the flexible Filipino adjusts to whatever happens. An example is this one right here where the motorcycle there are a lot of passengers, so what there's only limited tricycles, I mean motorcycles in the area, so what he did is there's high demand of passengers. So what he did was he made an extension of his motorcycle so that more people can be accommodated. And another one is this vehicle right here on the top right most of the picture, wherein there are a lot of people wanting to go in the vehicle, ride the vehicle, but then there is only limited space. So they went up the roof of the jeepney so that they can also ride the jeepney. So that's what we are as Filipinos. We make things work, diba? So the results are productivity, innovation, entrepreneurship, and survival. Basically, we can survive. For example, when there's nothing else to eat, diba? When there's nothing else to eat, we usually, when there's no viand at home, what we do is we make lugaw and salt. Okay. We are flexible. We are adaptable and creative. Another positive Filipino strength, positive trait, Filipino trait is being hardworking and being industrious. So we do have the capacity for hard work given the proper conditions and to raise one's standard of living and to possess the essentials of a decent life for one's family. So we do work hard. We do try our best to give our best into anything that we are into, in any jobs that we are given, because we do have high hopes and high ambitions for not just for ourselves but also for our family. So we are also willing to take risk and jobs abroad, to take the jobs abroad while there, and while there, they work 2 to 3 jobs at a time. So I am fond of watching vlogs from Filipinos who are already in Canada and in other parts of the world, and their bosses love them because of their hard work and industry in their work. And not only that, they also do 2 or 3 jobs just for them to have something to give to their family, especially back here in the Philippines, to give them a better life. So, next is faith and religiosity. We Filipinos have deep faith in God. So, our innate religiosity enables us to comprehend and genuinely accept reality in the context of God's will and plan. And our religious expressions are very tangible here in the Philippines. And although we do differ in our expression of religiosity and faith to God, because we also differ in our beliefs. We do have diverse religions here in the Philippines, but then we are one that, I mean, what's common among Filipinos is that we really do have the faith in God. And as a result, we do have a positive outlook in life, that no matter life happens, we know that someone has our back, that God is backing us up in everything that we do. And we do have the courage to face life. And we do have inner peace, although we are surrounded by problems and difficulties in life. Okay. Next is our ability to survive. So Filipinos make do with what is available in the environment. So it is manifested in the millions of Filipinos who bravely lived through the harshest economic and social circumstances. So I could remember my grandparents, because after World War II, their lives were so difficult at that time, because of course there was no rice, there was no nothing to eat. So there was nothing to eat. So what they did was they planted corn, they planted kamote, they planted kamoteng kahoy just to survive. No, so we do have the ability to survive. Maning kamot jud ta, right? We do everything just to survive. Next, Filipinos are survivors and are resilient. So we do have the ability to bounce back in life, like and pliant, to be pliant like a bamboo. We have the great capability to surpass all the sad experiences and recover easily from the difficult times. Okay, and with all of these strengths and of the Filipino culture, it makes us really proud that we are Filipinos, right? But there's so much good in the Filipino culture, but so much needs to be changed too. Of course, when there are positive traits in the Filipino character, there are also negative traits of Filipinos. Okay, so but then we should also take note that these strengths, the strengths that we have just mentioned earlier, can also become our weakness if we do it too much or if we go beyond what is necessary. No, for example, that our strengths can become our source of weakness is that in the family orientation. So becomes in group when we say family orientation, it becomes in group orientation that prevents us from reaching out beyond the family to the larger community and our nation. So we're just always thinking about our family and not for the good of the community and our nation. So that's not a good thing if we um, go beyond the line. Okay, if we take it, I mean, kung pasosobrahan natin ang family orientation. Next is personalism. So we are warm and caring, but this leads us to lack of objectivity. Okay, we always take things personally. Okay, like I will give the example later. Okay, we are concerned with people we know, but unfair to the people we don't know. And next is on flexibility. When can it become a source of weakness? If we compromise precision and discipline, say for example, since we are known, I mean, most Filipinos are known to procrastinate, so therefore, malalate tayo sa pag-submit ng mga deadlines. So, but then because we are flexible, okay, bahala na yan, bahala ng late, okay, accept pa rin. So, it can become a weakness. Another is joyful and sense of humor. We can't take things with humor all the time, especially for serious problems that need serious analysis. So because we do take things lightly most of the time, so kadalasan wala ring masyadong seryosong solusyon sa mga problema natin. Okay? So faith in God. So our strength, but this is our strength. No, we do have faith in God, but this could also be our weakness when we are very much dependent on the outside forces of us and we lack or we don't do the necessary things that we need to do kasi umaasa lang tayo sa, 'di ba? May kasabihan na nasa Diyos ang awa, nasa tao ang gawa. So we also have to do our part. Okay? Next is pakikipagkapwa-tao. We can easily empathize, but we can at the same time be envious of others. Okay? So now let us go to our weaknesses. This is again part of the report of Senator Leticia Shahani. So extreme family centeredness. Excessive concern for family means using one's office and power to promote family interest and thus factionalism, patronage, political dynasties, and protection of erring family members. So take a look at this caricature on the right side. So vote, that's the father. Vote next, mother. Vote next sa anak. And vote next sa apo. Vote next for our family for the next 50 years. So, extreme family centeredness results in the lack of concern for the common good and acts as a block to national consciousness. That's why usong-uso dito sa Pilipinas, whether we admit it or not, but we do hear a lot of stories that of nepotism wherein there's a qualified applicant but kasi yung nag-apply na hindi masyadong qualified or second or third in rank na, nasapawan yung first rank kasi kapatid or kapamilya ng nasa highest position na magluluklok sa posisyon na yun. So that's extreme family centeredness. So that's it. Next is extreme personalism. So we always take things personally. So Filipino view the world in terms of personal relationship. So no separation between objective task and emotional involvement. So that's the negative one because, for example, um, in your work, for example, so mas inuuna mo pa yung halimbawa, pag may ibang tao na hindi mo kakilala, um, may pinagawa siya sa'yo, pero may kakilala ka, ang na for example, kakilala mo or friend mo, madali mong ginawa yung task na or yung gusto niyang ipagawa sa'yo sa office niyo kasi kakilala mo siya. So parang gano'n, 'di ba? So lack of objectivity, parang hindi mo na ginagawa kung ano yung dapat, kundi ginagawa mo 'yan kasi kakilala mo siya. So this is under the table mga agreement. Okay, because of this, the Filipino is uncomfortable with bureaucracy, with rules and regulations, and with standard procedures. And kahit na, as example of this is kahit na, for example, ang principal is hindi, or ang teacher is hindi masyadong magaling sa position niya, um, nandyan pa rin siya kasi kakilala mo siya, 'di ba? So unlike in other countries, class, like are employed, when you're employed in a certain institution and when you don't do good, especially in public schools in the US, like if you are a teacher or a principal, if you are not good at executing your job, so not automatically, but there's a due process being followed. So you can be puwede kang matanggal sa trabaho mo. So, gano'n. Pero dito sa atin, magre-retire na lang. So, maghihintay na lang ng retirement. Okay? And that he uses personal contacts and gives preference to family, friends in hiring, services, and even voting. So, this leads to graft and corruption, which is very much evident in the Philippine society. So, example also is during election. So, do we vote for is who do we vote for? Who do people vote for? Most of the time, they vote for the people they know, no? Not because that person is capable, not because that person is talented, but because you know that person. So that's our basis, usually the basis for electing someone in the office of Philippines. So like I know a place na um, I know a place na parang family na lang nila yung parating kay may ano-ano sa position, like sa position, hindi ko na i-mention yung position. But then after his term, sumunod naman yung kapatid, sunod ibang kapatid naman. So for how many years they are holding that position, and there is what's this, lack of progress in that particular place, but then the people are still voting for them. Why? Because kadalasan sa mga nakatira sa lugar na yon ay kamag-anak nila. That's why if there's anyone na tumatakbo na hindi nila kamag-anak at tumakbo against them, so hindi talaga nananalo. So this leads to graft and corruption. No? This leads to lack of progress in our community. So dapat hindi ganon. So Filipinos tend to give personal interpretations to actions. Example, take things personally. When someone gives them criticism, we always take it personally. Like when someone gives you even constructive criticism, you will say, sinabi niya lang yun kasi naiinggit siya or ganun. 'di ba? When in fact you have to examine yourself if what the other person is speaking is correct or not. Okay, next is lack of discipline. So it is a casual attitude toward time and space manifested in the lack of precision and compulsiveness, in poor time management and procrastination. So typically Filipinos are known for that. We do lack or we do have poor time management. Pag sinabing 7 o'clock magsisimula ang program, nagsisimula mga 9 or 8:30, di ba? And then even in schools, wherein the schools sa schools dapat ma-develop ang discipline ng mga bata. When we say 10 o'clock in the morning, magsa-start ang program, anong oras na magsa-start? 11 o'clock. So, ganun. Next is procrastination. So, may bukas pa. I will not do it today kasi may bukas pa. So, ang ending ay magmamadali tayo and what's as a result, hindi maganda yung quality of work natin. So, aversion to following procedures strictly results in the lack of standardization and equality control. So, lack of discipline. So, impatience can result in shortcuts, palusot, mga ningas, kugon, and often results to inefficient work systems, violation of rules, and casual work ethic lacking follow-through. So the lack of discipline among Filipinos, whether we admit it or not, we do lack discipline, can be seen in the pictures. So whenever even there's a sign na bawal umihi dito, still someone is umiihi on the wall, di ba? And then, kani, ang mga canals na to, we are often flooded, especially sa Manila, di ba? And what's the cause? The clogged up na mga estero, mga canals. Kasi dahil sa kapabayaan ng mga tao. So, ang masisisi na naman is government when in fact, dapat ang sisihin ay ang mga tao na walang pakundangan na tatapon ng basura. And if you have noticed, class, I have noticed that about 5 years ago, whenever we go to the beach, ang linis-linis pa ng beach. Pero ngayon, ang dami-dami ng basura. What about for the next 10 years? What's going to happen if we still lack the discipline? Mukaon, balibag. Diba? That's, naghuman og program. Diba pagkatapos ng program kas or on a concert, anong iniiwan? Or diba noong may mga rally-rally sa during election, anong iniiwan? Mga basura. Diba? So that is an indication that we really lack the discipline, unlike in other countries na meron talaga silang discipline when it comes to things. For example, sa garbage segregation, yung pagtatapon ng basura sa tamang lugar, traffic also, like for example, kapag tumawid ka ng pedestrian dito sa Philippines, sa ibang bansa, class, because I happen to live there for 3 years, and I have observed the difference because when you cross the pedestrian, hihinto yung mga sasakyan and they will wait for you to cross the pedestrian lane. But dito, magmamadali ka as in tatakbo ka talaga para makatawid sa pedestrian. So, ganon dito, right? So, that is a manifestation that we do lack the discipline. And even in the rehabilitation of yung sa Pasig, di ba? Yung sa dagat, I forgot, sorry about that. Yung ni-rehabilitate ng government natin. So, dapat ang i-rehabilitate din ay ang mga practices nating Filipino. So next is passivity and lack of initiative. Waiting to be told what to do, reliance on others, such as the leaders in government, complacence and lack of sense of urgency. Like we always rely on what the government can do for us. We don't have the sense of urgency and the initiative. So it is also manifested in, so for example, in your work, no? You always take things, everything that your boss will tell you, even though you are naa-abuse ka na. So there's a high tolerance of inefficiency, poor service, and even violations of one right. So we are too patient and matiisin, too easily resigned to his fate. Filipinos is easily oppressed and exploited because of this passivity and lack of initiative. So usually in a meeting, for example, sa teachers or in an organization, you just wait for your boss to tell you what to do, and you don't say anything. You just accept all the things that he says, even though already a violation of rights, because we are too tolerant about that, no? So, because if we do speak up, it is often seen negatively, and they will say na you are mareklamo. So that's why tumatahimik ka na lang. So next is colonial mentality. So lack of patriotism or of an active awareness, appreciation, and love of the Philippines, and an actual preference for the foreign things. So we do prefer iPhone over Cherry Mobile. We do prefer Toblerone and Hershey's over Cloud9. So yeah, and I'm also guilty about this, no? So, but class, those progressive countries, one of the characteristics of a progressive country is that they do have people, or that their people love their country to the point where they could give up their lives for the sake of their country, such as when you see those American movies like um yung mga soldiers, they sacrifice their lives for the sake of their country. Perhaps there are people who are like this in our country too, but we seldom see them. Okay? So next is the kanya-kanya syndrome or talangka mentality. So kanya-kanya syndrome is iya-iya, aho-aho. Okay, bahala na kayo dyan, bahala na kami dito, bahala na ako sa buhay ko, bahala na kayo sa buhay nyo. And the talangka mentality. Whenever you see that someone is progressing, or yung umaangat yung buhay nila, so some Filipinos drag them down by way of chismis, intriga, and constructive criticism. It is evident in the personal ambition that is completely insensitive to the common good. So example is the lack of sense of service among Filipino in the government bureaucracy. So those who are in the position, they just don't give their best to serve the community, but rather they are just complacent and have the lack of sense of service. And some will say, okay, bahala na, basta sumisweldo ako. So yung ganong kanya-kanya syndrome. So as a result, this results in dampening of cooperative and community spirit, and in the trampling upon other people's rights. No, so here in the Philippines, we do have a lot of marites, diba? So that is also a disadvantage, because in other countries, walang masyadong ganyan, kasi they care about, basta walang mga marites doon, right? Okay, next is the lack of self-analysis and self-reflection. So tendency to be superficial and somewhat flighty. So, in the days of serious personal and social problems, there is a lack of analysis and reflection, and instead, satisfaction with superficial explanations and solutions. So, we tend to believe into everything that we see and hear without really analyzing whether what we hear and see are true. Okay, so like for example, there's a fake news that yung may COVID vaccination, there were a lot of fake news circulating on the social media, and a lot of people will just believe it right away without reflecting if those were true or not. Okay, next is emphasis on forma rather than on substance. So we do tend to put emphasis on the physical attractiveness of people. This lack of analysis and emphasis on the form is reinforced by an educational system that is more form than substance. So, here in the Philippines, pag maputi ka, pag maganda ka, pag maganda yung hair mo, sikat ka, 'di ba? Especially kung sunod ka sa uso. That's why yun ang mapapansin mo sa Filipino culture na nagkikis-kis ng kung ano-ano sa mukha, nagpapaputi, para lang to look attractive because if you do that, people will treat you well. Mas maganda yung tingin nila sa'yo kesa sa kung hindi ka nakadamit or nakapustura ng maayos. So, in or hindi maganda yung mukha mo. But in other countries' class, I don't know, but in my observation, when in my observation while I was in the US, they don't put much emphasis on the forma, but rather sisikat ka doon or magiging famous ka kung ikaw ay talented at kung mabait ka or kung meron kang nagawa na katangi-tangi. But dito sa Philippines, um, we are more on the forma. So that's why kapag may mga artista, nako, tilian na, 'di ba? But then doon, parang siguro, kasi halos lahat ng mga tao ay magaganda, that's why hindi na sila masyadong, ano ba yun? So they look into the person's inner self rather than on what's on the outside, which is, I think, is more important, 'di ba? Okay, so the weaknesses are rooted in many factors such as home, social and economic environment, culture and change, history, religion, educational system, mass media. So, mass media, right? So, say for example, sa mass media natin makikita ang examples ng mga tao na dapat ganito yung mukha mo para i-consider ka ng maganda. Okay. Example lang yan, class. Next is the leadership and role model. So kasi yun yung nakikita natin sa mga leaders at role models natin. So kaya, yun din ang napafollow ng natin, di ba? So those are the roots of the weaknesses and the negative traits of the Filipino character. So that is why part of the report of the Moral Recovery Program, Building People, Building a Nation of Shahani Leticia in 1998 are the goals that she proposed to develop among the Filipino learners. And these are number one, sense of patriotism and national pride. Number two, the common good, the sense of integrity and accountability, values and habits of discipline and hard work, the value of habits of self-reflection and analysis, the internalization of the spiritual values, and the emphasis on the essence rather than on the form. And DepEd also has developed their vision and core values. But the attainment of this vision and core values could be an uphill battle considering all the weaknesses in our culture. So it is the school's duty to really inculcate the values, the to strengthen the positive traits of the Filipino culture and to eradicate the negative traits of the Filipino character. Now, how did schools respond to this? Now, in 1988 to 1990, values education, now edukasyon sa pagpapakatao in the K-12 curriculum, was introduced as a separate subject in the basic education curriculum. Now, in the year 2002, the year when the basic education curriculum or the K-12 curriculum was implemented, values education are integrated in all the learning areas. So meaning in everything, in all the lessons and all the subject areas, values education is always integrated. While in senior high school, they're offering introduction to philosophy of the human person and personal development. Now let us have a recap of today's lesson. Number one, we do have strengths in our characters that needs to be strengthened and emphasized, and that is the role of our schools. Number two, we also have weaknesses that hinder our national progress. Number three, our strengths can also be our weakness, and our schools must address our weakness to help eradicate and eliminate those weaknesses. And number four, home should do its part to help schools eliminate the weaknesses of our character. So it is not just the school's responsibility, but it will be more effective if the home, the parents, the guardians, and even the community will take part in inculcating in our Filipino learners those positive traits to strengthen our culture as a Filipino. So that will be our lesson for this afternoon. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you learned something. Goodbye.